Hey everyone, welcome back to Sunday Sound Design. This is episode 11, and we're continuing a series here on the show where we're talking about creating rhythmic synthesizers and rhythmic synth patterns in Ableton Live with a couple different techniques. So we started a couple weeks ago talking about using clips in Ableton Live to automate things like volume and change those in Ableton Live and draw in our own patterns to really create some and do some unique things. In our previous episode, I showed you how to use AutoPan to create some really interesting rhythmic patterns. And today I want to talk about maybe the most basic, the kind of main primary way to create rhythmic patterns as it pertains to synthesizers, and that's using LFOs. Now, if that concept scares you, if you're not sure what that is, don't tune me out, because here's my passion, and here's really the goal of Sunday Sound Design. I want to make sound design fun. I want you to take some time on a Sunday, or really any day. It's a poorly named show, let's be honest. But take a Sunday, pull up your MIDI keyboard, grab a cup of coffee, just relax and just experiment. And Sunday Sound Design is all about getting the sounds you hear in your head out into Ableton Live so that you can record, create songs, maybe use key sounds live. But I want to prove to you that sound design is simple, easy, and fun. If you're really into modular synthesis and you understand all of this and you understand the mathematical equations that create oscillators that create sounds, you're probably not going to enjoy this show. But if you're someone who has a desire and passion to get what's in your head out, then I think you're going to love it. So let's dive in and let's talk about how to do this. Now, I'm using Ableton Live 11.1 and I'm using Ableton Live Suite. And so I'm going to go to instruments here and I'm going to choose Wavetable. This is kind of becoming my go-to synthesizer. And as I mentioned in our previous episode, you're going to see this may look overwhelming. This may look complex to you, but the way Ableton has designed this instrument, you can do some really complex things really simply, right? So let's dive in. So first I'm going to choose a sound. I'm going to go to one of my favorite places here, Vintage. Let's see if we can find a sound that we like, that we want to use. Okay, great. We're just going to go to kind of a default sound. So I'm going to do my go-tos of going, keeping it poly. We're going to go to unison and we'll do 3 voices. Okay, I like that. I think that works for me. We'll change our filter to an Oscar filter. Great. I think that's good. Now, I'm going to go to my go-to and do a little reverb here. So we'll throw a little reverb on the end, change our quality to high, decay. We're going to crank up. Dry wet, we're going to crank up. We end up with this now. Okay, I think that works. Now we're going to go a step further. This has nothing to do with creating a rhythmic synth in live, so tune me out if you want to. This is something I do often, but whenever I work with reverbs in live, I tend to like to keep the dry wet at 100%, and then I right-click, I group this, and then I go to my chains here and I create a new chain. And I call this like a dry chain, okay? So that I have my affected signal, which would be my verb, then I have my dry signal here. And these are both running at the same time. So now if I play this, okay, we get this, I can adjust the filter. Can open and close the filter. Okay, great, that works for me. Now, I do want something a little brighter for this, but let's start talking about using LFOs to create a rhythmic pattern. Now, first, let's talk about what an LFO is. LFO stands for low frequency oscillator. And essentially the way I think about it is it's an oscillator that's constantly moving, but it's so low below the human hearing that we can't hear it. It's essentially a pattern, a thing that's just kind of constantly going, or we could set it to where when we trigger a key, it restarts its signal, its path again. But we use that to then modulate other things. So you'll see as a perfect example, we use an LFO to modulate our amp or to modulate filter or something. That's going to create a pattern that goes up and down. So let's talk about how to do that in Wavetable. First off, in Wavetable, we've got 2 LFOs here, right? We have LFO 1, LFO 2. This is great because they can be different waves. They could be different rates, all sorts of different things, and use them differently. And then what's super nice when we want to say, okay, here's our LFO, here's some controls specific to it, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But what do we want our LFO to modulate? What do we want it to change? Now, if we go to Matrix, now we see LFO 1, LFO 2 listed here. Now, one thing I could have it modulate is the pitch, right? So let's go in, let's have this modulate pitch, okay? And if I play that, right, sounds kind of crazy. That's probably not what we want. I'll just hold a note down and we change that. Now, what's nice though is, let me actually turn off a reverb now. And because I'm using an LFO, actually now that I think about it, I may not use reverb for this, but we'll try it out. We'll try it anyway. Okay. So let's play our pitch and just listen to this. What's nice, let's click where it says LFO1 here, and that's going to take us right to LFO1. You can see how this is changing, right? We can go kind of crazy with it. But then here's what's cool about this. Let's slow this down, slow our rate down. Okay, so we have this kind of real drastic drop down, drop up. When we take an LFO and we have it modulate pitch, what do we create? Vibrato. So if you think about a singer that's singing and they go, right, and they're going up and down, what are they doing? They're singing a note and then they're using something to modulate pitch, right, up and down, which creates vibrato. So when we do that, right, sounds a little crazy, a little drastic, but if we make it a little less crazy, and we adjust the amount there, then we get just kind of a subtle vibrato. Now, there's other ways to do this. We could have our LFO modulate our pitch of our in semitones here, or detune and synths of our actual oscillator. But just by doing this, you can hear, we can kind of create a little more interest in this sound. Right, maybe that's a little too far. It's almost mimicking our unison. So if we took that off, in a way we could kind of make it thicker. I still like this on there a little better. But when LFO modulates pitch, that's what we get, is essentially vibrato. But what I want to do as a way to create some rhythm, and we'll talk about a couple different approaches here, is I want to take my LFO and have it modulate my amp. Okay. So I'm going to crank this all the way up to 100. So LFO is now modulating amp. Okay. And it's not doing a whole lot now because, again, remember we changed the wave, but let's click into LFO here. Let's change our wave type. So we had, actually, let's leave this just for a second. Let's increase our rate. Let's increase our amount. Okay. So we're on a sine wave. Okay, so that sounds quite crazy, but let's slow it down. Okay. All right. So now we're starting to get, you could actually literally see the volume pulse up and down there. Up and down, right? But it's nice and kind of smooth because it's a sine wave. Now, if we switch to triangle here, we're going to see those peaks are a little more sharp, right? All right, let's go back to sine. All right, you're going to hear those peaks are a little sharp. Now let's go to saw. Okay, so that's a little more like a pulse. Boom, 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 boom. It's kind of off on really quickly, okay? Square, all right, it's a little more, the valleys are a little more extreme, and so it also kind of pulses as opposed to the sine wave or the triangle, which are a little more like, I don't know if it makes sense. Try to think, to me, sound design, particularly when we get to this sort of stuff, is all about like word pictures and trying to associate the visual of what's happening with the wave with what I hear in my head, what I hear in my ears when I actually do it. And so for me, it's super helpful to like play stuff and then kind of listen and go, okay, what type of sound is that? And then finally, the last type of wave we have, which is pretty interesting, is random. Okay. So we could get some kind of random, interesting kind of rhythmic patterns. Now within that, there's a couple different ways to choose how quickly or how slowly those patterns change. Let's go back to our saw here. Okay, sawtooth wave. All right, and I want to go from hertz, this HZ. I want to go to our note here, and now we see this as a rate. Now you see eighth notes. Now how do I know what my tempo is? It's based on whatever Live's global tempo is up here. So let's drop this to like 90 BPM. Okay, and so let's turn our metronome on just for a second. Press play, and I'll play some pad stuff here. Okay, now I'm purposely, things are getting a little chaotic, okay? And I purposely did that to stress this point because I want to show you one other feature that I think a lot of people miss when they're trying to use LFOs and they go, I can't use this. This isn't practical. I can't use this live. So this button right here, retrigger, what this basically means is, and I kind of mentioned this before, do I want to retrigger the LFO to go back to the start of it every time I play a new note? So let me play one note. Let me add a fifth to that. Okay, you hear how it's kind of retriggering. Okay, I add my third, it's retriggering. Right, that's basically 4 kind of patterns. They're all starting in different places of the pattern. I don't want that. That's hard to keep in time. Now, there may be a scenario situation based on the type of sound you're looking to do where that makes sense to you. But for me and most scenarios where I'm playing, which is like I want to play a pad sound and I want to create kind of a pulsing synth, that doesn't work very well for me. So what I'm going to do is disable retrigger. Now let's turn that click on again. Let's play and listen to what happens here. Okay. So it's a lot more in time. Now, obviously I have to play in time, and there's a couple different tweaks we'll take here to make it kind of shift and get on the grid and on the beat a little better that may help us. But just for a moment, I want to take a moment and kind of explore the different types of sounds and things we can do here. So we have rate, we have amount. So as I play this, right, I can decrease my amount. This is effectively doing nothing there, the LFO is. And then we could bring it back. It's still there, but it's a little subtle. Let's make it all the way. But then here's where it starts to get really fun. We can take this shape and, or take this, this wave that we have, and let's shape it a little bit. Okay. So we're almost getting to the point where it's like a sawtooth wave there by doing that. Okay. We can go the opposite direction. Okay, so now let's play that in time. That's kind of an interesting pattern. Let's see what that's like. Okay, let's go the opposite direction. Really extreme with it. Okay, so we start to get some really interesting patterns. For me, though, I'm still kind of struggling to keep that on beat. Now, granted, that's my playing. That's a piece of it. But the way the shape is moving, it's like the shape is almost moving to the point where we're getting out of time. So a useful feature when I'm working with LFOs is this offset feature here. So let me see if I can play this, and I'll start our click. Let me try actually play some proper notes. Let's get our shape back to 0 here. And it's kind of hard to tell. I don't feel like it's making as much of a difference as it does on auto pan, but you can mess with these and see if you can try to kind of line them up, get them a little more in time to match what you're doing. We also have this A button here, and I'm not sure what that is. Let's see if info view tells us what that is. It's not telling us what it is. We do have milliseconds LFO attack. Oh, that's what it is. It's just telling us that's the attack. So that may be helpful, particularly on something like that. Okay, let's increase our attack. So we see initially it's going to take a little bit. No, actually, I don't like that. I think that sounds worse than what we had. But it's an interesting kind of vibe. That's kind of interesting there. Yeah, I kind of like that. That's kind of cool. Sounds a lot better when you hit the right notes. But that's kind of an interesting vibe, because what's happening, if you're thinking about it, we're hearing the initial sound, and then the LFO is kind of taking a second to get there to adjust our volume. And so there's a lot of really cool stuff we can mess with there. I really like messing with shape a lot. I think that really helps kind of shape the pattern. And that's kind of an interesting looking shape there. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Now, if you pair that, this is slightly out of the scope of this video, but why not? I can go there. If you go to your amp and you start messing with some stuff like sustain and decay, right, let's bring it up a little bit. Let's definitely mess with decay. We could even make a faster attack on this. Let's see what that does for us. That's kind of interesting. I think I definitely like my sustain a little higher. Let's make it basically no release whatsoever. Shorten that decay time. I think I actually like it longer. Split the difference. Okay, so I could go on forever with this, but let me keep going because there's a couple other things I want to show you. In particular, one more device. So I have my LFO kind of cranking away there, doing some fun stuff, messing with offset. The other thing we could do is take like our other LFO here if we wanted. We don't have to. And we could have that modulate our filter frequency. So let's go to matrix. I just clicked on frequency here so that pops up, and let's have it modulate our filter. Okay. All right, so that's already kind of cool. So let's see what kind of sounds we can get there. Let's turn off retrigger. Go to random. Actually, I kind of like where we were here. There we go. That's pretty cool. Eighth notes. Yeah, I like that. Okay. We could open or close our filter there. So now I'm using my LFO to modulate both my amp, which is giving me kind of the volume, and then my filter, which I've got all the way up, and then I could just MIDI map that and assign that. Two things that I like MIDI mapping when I'm doing this stuff in this particular scenario would be frequency, and then also MIDI mapping the shape of the sound, because that can really, really drastically change it and shape the sound. But for now, let's just kind of play. Let's experiment with that and see what we get. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I actually really like that kind of filter thing and adding that in. Now let's add a reverb back, and we'll see what happens, kind of having the reverb after this and see if we like it or not. But let's try it out and see what we get. Now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to practice what I preach here, and map my frequency, and let's see what that does. I think that could create some really cool kind of vibes. Let's try it though. Yeah, so it kind of slowly start to open. Could close that again if I wanted. Again, helps if you're a good keys player, you know what you're doing. But that's kind of an interesting approach too, adding that reverb on there. I kind of like that because it gives me like the pad thing, but gives me the rhythmic thing as well too. And we could keep using the LFO to modulate lots of different things. I mean, we can modulate, if you look at matrix here, we can have LFO 1 and 2 modulate a lot of different things. Modulate oscillator 1 position. Let's just try that. Yeah, I kind of like that. Go the opposite direction. Open our filter up. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I am starting to really like that. Now, another thing I might do here, and again, this really has, I mean, I guess this has to do with rhythmic stuff. A lot of times I'll do like an echo, maybe I'll throw echo here and just really kind of subtly do something like this, particularly the vibe we're going for. Adjust our character here, increase a little wobble. It may work, may not work. We'll see. Bring our filter down. Oh, that's kind of cool. And that's just me bringing the filter down to a place that's kind of a neat spot. Yeah, so again, I don't know if echo works for you or not, but that's kind of an interesting, unique vibe there that I think could be pretty cool. Add some effects after that. I mean, again, I guess it's my show, so I could do whatever I want to. I need to move on, but the next thing I think of then is pedal and adding like some drive to this. I've got filter, I've got drive, being able to do something like, hey, that's gonna be the name of my first single. I've got filter, I've got drive, but here we go. So something maybe kind of like this. Yeah, that's just too much fun than more fun than one man should be allowed to have in Ableton Live at any time. I do think I'm going to bring the echo down a little bit. And then one other thing I'm going to do, sorry to derail us pretty consistently. I'm going to go here and MIDI map my decay time, which I'm going to need to do anyway. Excuse me, not MIDI map, MIDI map. Let's map to a macro. We'll start with that. We'll do our delay like this. But then here's what's kind of cool with this. Now I'm going to MIDI map this to my MIDI controller, because with those kind of three things that I have there, what I feel like I could really do is kind of build something dynamic. So let's see, keep our decay time kind of where it was. Close filter, close our drive amount down, and let's see what we get here. So. Yeah, so that's pretty fun. So that's obviously very drastic, and that's more of like producing a song than playing a keys part. But I love how absolutely easy Ableton Live makes it to get there, to go to that place, and to produce something pretty cool. So again, I've just mapped. Let's see if I can show you here on my MIDI controller, just so you guys can see what I've mapped. And I've just gone and mapped this control here. Let's widen out. Zoom out just a little so you guys see this. So I mapped this to my filter. So I'm kind of increasing this. I'm increasing this, which is pedal amount, and then increasing this, which is my decay amount. So what I'm essentially doing in the beginning there is slowly opening my filter and then increasing pedal, right? You get these kind of interesting spots. Okay, so that's kind of just doing this in real time. And then when I'm ready to go just crazy, and that rhythmic pattern is so cool. But when I'm ready to go crazy, I pull that all the way up, I push pedal up, and then we can just push decay of our verb to wildness, to madness. And then we can slowly filter that down. Right, and what's really cool about that to me, that's something that I could create live in the studio, kind of do those MIDI mappings, record that process. All that's captured in session view, captured in arrangement view. And then it's there for me to use kind of whenever I need to. I could go back and clean that up and tighten that up, but it's so much fun. Now I wanted to show you another technique, but I've just flat run out of time. So to make sure you continue to see the rest of this series, I promise I won't go as long-winded as I've done on this one, but to continue to see the rest of the series, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, from Studio to Stage channel, and make sure you hit the bell icon and enable notifications. That way you get notified as soon as I post new content. And here's really cool. If this is your first time joining us for Sunday Sound Design, this exact patch that you see here, I'm going to rack this up and I'm going to make this available to download for free. To get that, just click the link in the description of this video, and you can download this patch completely for free. And you'll have hopefully as much fun as I've had. Again, map it to controls on your MIDI controller and you're just going to have a blast. But man, this is one of my favorite things to do every week. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you on the next one. Again, I post a piece of content 10 a.m. Central every day, so make sure you subscribe to catch that. But we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.